And you thought NASCAR was done. It's not. I'm Jordan Bianchi with The Athletic here on Dirty Mo Media, walking you through a bombshell lawsuit that Joe Gibbs Racing filed against former competition director Chris Gabehart. Here, first, let's get to some of the facts. As been discussed many times, Chris Gabehart left Joe Gibbs Racing over the offseason. A lot of the burning question is where was Gabehart going to go and why did he leave Joe Gibbs Racing? We now have a little bit more light on that. Let's start with this. One of the big questions over the offseason was why did Chris Gabehart leave Joe Gibbs Racing and where was he going to go? We now have some light on this because of the lawsuit. Here are some of the facts. According to the lawsuit, Gabehart informed Joe Gibbs Racing towards the end of last year that he wanted to have a bigger control within the company. In a meeting that Gabehart had on November 6th with Joe Gibbs himself, he sought additional authority over Joe Gibbs Racing's entire competition department. Basically, he wanted complete responsibility and control over the departments, and he wanted to be the sole person in charge of this. Joe Gibbs rebuffed Gabehart's desire for greater control, alleging that Gabehart wanted carte blanche authority over all racing decisions. After the two sides could not agree to this, Gabehart informed the team that he wished to leave the company, and his last day was November 10th, 2025. As Joe Gibbs Racing customarily does in these situations when an employee leaves the company, they confiscated Gabehart's work computer and then went over it and did what they call a forensic study on that. During the forensic analysis of the computer, JGR learned Gabehart had allegedly taken photos and accessed proprietary information beyond realms of which he had privy to. As competition director, obviously Gabehart had access to a lot of information towards on the racing side of things, setups, what cars they were using, parts, pieces, that kind of thing. But JGR alleges that Gabehart went beyond this realm and through its investigation, and this is a quote, among other things, defendant synced his personal Google Drive with his JGR laptop. Defendant repeatedly conducted Google searches and online research about Spire during October and November of 2025. The Google Drive contained a folder titled Spire and a subfolder titled Past Setups. And defendant had possession of more than a dozen photos of the screen of his JGR laptop that were taken on November 7th, 2025. This was one day after Gabehart is alleged to have a meeting with Joe Gibbs where he asked for total control of the organization and was told no. The photos that Gabehart allegedly took contained images of JGR files containing confidential information and trade secrets. At the time, JGR was not aware that Gabehart was talking to other race teams. According to the lawsuit, they say that Gabehart never told them that he was going to a different team and that at the time he had no other job. They learned later that he was talking to Spire Motorsports. That prompted JGR to do an additional deep dive into his JGR computer, where they learned that Gabehart had multiple conversations with Spire co-owner Jeff Dickerson. They had meetings, and it makes interesting why he had a folder titled Spire and a subfolder titled Past Setups. They are alleging JGR that Gabehart then is taking that information with him to his new job. This was back in December. The parties have had continues back and forth between their respective attorneys since then, and it was just a few weeks ago, actually it was just last week, when Joe Gibbs Racing learned that Gabehart was going to be going to Spire as its chief motorsports officer. Now, Gabehart had said during these last few months that he would be going to Spire, but he said it was going to be in a different role. It was not similar to the role that he was in at JGR, which was competition director. But when JGR found out that Gabehart was going to be the chief motorsports officer at Spire, they pushed back. They believe that the two roles were basically kind of one and the same, if you will, and that because of this, they were not comfortable with this. A week later, today, Thursday, February 19th, 2026, Joe Gibbs Racing filed that lawsuit against Chris Gabehart. This law, where Where things go from here is a bit unknown. This lawsuit was filed in the Western District of North Carolina, the same court system that Michael Jordan and Bob Jenkins and their respective teams, 2311 and Front Row Motorsports, filed their lawsuit against NASCAR. Obviously, that case went to court and there was a trial. We don't know if this case against Gabehart is going to get that far. We'll see. Often in these situations, a settlement is reached, the parties agree to different terms, and everybody goes their separate ways. One thing of note in this, though, that JGR is seeking a judgment against Gabehart in an amount to be determined at the trial of this action and presently believed to exceed $8 million for the compensatory and other damages, double damages, and attorney's fees. So basically, they want $8 million for what they believe is information that Gabehart took from them, and they want to be reimbursed for that. Similar lawsuits through the years have been filed when an employee has left a NASCAR team under less than ideal circumstances and has gone to a different team. Those lawsuits often, in many instances, have been resolved and are either resolved or thrown out completely. We'll see if this is the case with this one. And obviously with the forensic data that JGR has alleging that Gabehart took information that was proprietary, that may change things a little bit. But that's where things now stand. Now this is going to be between the lawyers and determine who is right and who is wrong, and if some kind of settlement can be reached. That is where things currently stand. We'll see how this progresses, but the wheels of justice are certainly turning once again in NASCAR. I'm Jordan Bianchi with The Athletic, and you're watching Dirty Mo Media.